Trejo's Tacos.
Oh man, too funny. Hey everybody, we are live. We're talking about all the doings of the day, if you will. And there's been a lot going on, a heck of a lot going on. It's a very big day in sports. And it started with the NBA Finals. Well, actually, it didn't really start with the NBA Finals. It started with the Las Vegas Raiders beating the Kansas City Chiefs 40-32. And for a while, the score wasn't even that close. What do you think about that win, Joseph?
Yeah, you know what? I'm still smiling about it. I'm glad I taped it because after we get off, I'm going to watch the whole game again. That's not what I thought about it. We see the holes that we have. Me, besides being a Homer Raider, right? Mm-hmm. I still point out and I critique. And our defense started really slow, and I'm still not impressed by the defense, but I got to give it up to them because they held it together. And something was driving them beyond the usual, game, rah, 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 we got to win. There's something there that when we play the Chiefs, we play at a different level. If you watch historically, even the games that we lost, we played them hard. Yep. And these new, what's impressive is that somehow the Raider culture, we know as Raider Nation fans, that there's something unique and special about being a Raider fan. And these new players have caught on quick and they've responded. Mm-hmm. The greatest thing me watching is that for many, many years, we have criticized Derek Carr, wrongly or rightly, that he doesn't throw the ball. 72-yard bomb to Henry Ruggs for a touchdown. That was great to see because we knew he had it in him. We just haven't seen it.
Mm-hmm. That what I think about it is that for me, one thing I didn't like about the way the Raiders, in particular Gruden, were employing Ruggs is I felt that he had him in too tight. And I thought that the best utilization of his talent was out wide. But what John did was he used a kind of a Mike Martz style of pattern where he had him in tight, but then he went out wide and then he brought him back in, And it's hard to cover somebody like that fast who's running that pattern. And that was the perfect, obviously he gave that some thought. That was the perfect call. That was the perfect employment of Ruggs' talent, and the result was a great touchdown. I was concerned, however, about the defense, but they did something particularly. It started late in the second half, and then it carried through the rest of the game. Guess what? Instead of playing zone, they played man for man. They manned it. They did something I thought was very risky. They didn't blitz much.
No.
Maybe.
And the time that they blitz, they didn't use Max Crosby, which to me didn't make sense because he was, he was after Mahomes like nobody's business. So the one time they do blitz, they pull him out of there. He doesn't blitz with the team.
Yeah. It's like they did something that I thought they should have. Made not so much a max blitz, but maybe 6-man blitz, 5-person blitz, right? 5-man blitz. But the way that they did it, I thought was risky. But guess what? They had the horses to do it. They had the players to get it done. And I'm happy to be wrong because I felt given what I saw against the Bills, they were going to have a hard time.
Yeah, I think you predicted 30-17, right?
I did. Yeah. It looked like it was headed in that direction. It really did.
Let me ask you this. You probably know this better than I do. I can't remember the last time the Raiders scored 40 points.
No, I can't either. I can't either. I was saying to my mom watching it, I said, Mom, I think that Kansas City didn't take the Raiders seriously. I think somewhere in the back of their mind, they thought, well, this is a team that we can handle pretty well.
It's a Super Bowl hangover.
You think that's it? Because remember, they were undefeated coming in. So I'm not prepared to say that, because I don't know how you can have a Super Bowl hangover and you're coming out of the gates and you're undefeated. You're basically, whipping around the park on your opponents. But
that's true. That's true. So I agree with you now that I think about it. But again, you're right. What is the stereotype about the Raiders? They fall into that trap.
Yeah, I think in this case, the Chiefs, it's one thing to think you know your opponent, but even if the opponent has changed their personnel, remember, this is the first time they played each other, okay? So, but it's another thing when your opponent, remember something, the Raiders have been after this for some time. The Raiders have now perfectly designed their team to beat the Chiefs, all right? Now, forget the Patriots or forget the Bills, but when it came to designing an organization, a team, excuse me, to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, they did it. And the proof's in the pudding. Last year, do we have anybody on our team that was as effective as Henry Ruggs? No. Did we have who was as fast? No. Even Amari Cooper in his day wasn't as fast as Henry Ruggs.
Yeah.
And who could see, although I felt, and I still believe that Nelson Aguilar is their best pickup. I think that was Mike Mayock virtuoso decision right there to get the great former Eagle wide receiver to come over to the Raiders.
And another touchdown from him too.
Yeah. I mean, Nelson Aguilar is Mr. Effective. He's the guy that comes in and just gets the job done. But it now, and also there's something else too that is that intangible. It's called want to, right? It's like, you know what? I'm tired of this. It reminds me of the San Francisco 49ers under Bill Walsh when they beat the Dallas Cowboys during the regular season of 1981 season 45-14. And that victory was hallmarked by a 75-yard catch and run by Dwight Clark, the late Dwight Clark, rest in peace. I can't believe I'm saying that. Wow. I can't. It's hard to imagine Dwight is gone. It just is. Wow. Excuse me. But I vividly remember Montana coming out of Brown formation, dropping back. I think it was a 2nd and 6, and threw this 14-yard out pattern to Dwight, who caught it. Everson Walls was covering him, and he just turned around and just turned on the jets, as only Dwight's tall dude, and just turned on the jets and scored. And it just keyed this amazing route, and it just shocked the NFL. It was like, what did they do? Because the previous year at Texas Stadium, the Cowboys had beaten them. I think it was 51-10. It was embarrassing.
Wow.
Oh, awful. Okay, awful. So this the Raiders' victory feels kind of like that, because when Steve DeBerg was quarterbacking the 49ers, it was generally accepted that Bill Walsh, because of his then unusual scheme, was onto something, but it would take time because he wasn't winning, right? Everybody understood he had to have the right players. And then 81, he had that wonderful draft where he got Ronnie Lott and Carlton Williamson and Eric Wright, and those guys did some damage. They all started. And then they had such greats as Keena Turner, linebacker, and the SMU's nose tackle, whose name just flew right out of my head. And of course, Keith Fahnhorst, who I had the pleasure of meeting later, a few years later after that in life. Great guy at a Super Bowl party, great guy. So folks like that. And this, I'm not prepared to say that this team is a Super Bowl team, but this is the second time this year I have felt like the Raiders had the stuff to be a Super Bowl team.
With the Saints beating and this one, right?
Yeah. And it wasn't, the Saints was like, for the Saints game, it was the first game, but the second game, when they were 0-2-0, then I started to think, this is starting to feel like a Super Bowl team. And then they had, against the Patriots, the fall off where basically, they proved that when it came to being outright muscled, they could be out muscled. But if you don't play their game, if you play something other than that kind of game, they can beat you.
And see, and that's the problem that I have is that the inconsistency. And then I start wondering and start thinking, and my leanings go towards blaming the coaches. Because it's the same personnel. It's like, what are they doing? Because I don't see the creativity. Because I always hear MSNBC with Mike Florio and Chris Sims have always stated how creative John Gruden is with his play calling. I don't see that. I see decent play calling, but I don't see no creativity. What's creativity to me is watching Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes do that flip, and they're turning around the other corner when they initially thought they were going the other way. That's creative. Yeah, and you could do that with a Henry Ruggs. And why aren't you doing that? To me, those plays are lackluster. They're like, 1998. Come on, let's be more creative now.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, and however, I'll say this about John, just from personal experience of knowing him. John is not allergic to a good idea. Okay. And I have given him plays now since the late 90s. And when I was and I've said this before, but it bears repeating for those who may not remember, when I was in Orlando for the NFL owners meeting of 2 years ago, with John's first NFL owners meeting. And I remember at the combine, John had said he needed ideas. I need ideas. And I said, I got some ideas for you. So I followed up with that at the NFL annual meeting, which was in Orlando. And I had a book, and to show you how important it was to John that he got the information from me, he had Will Kiss, the Raiders PR guy, wait for me in the lobby. All right. And I remember I don't know what happened to the original paper I had. I don't know if I left it here or whatever, but whatever. I ended up redrawing the paper on a whole new sheet of paper, or redrawing my ideas on a whole new sheet of paper, a set of them. And I wrote out the instructions and gave them to Will. And then I asked John, and what they were, folks, was it was a I don't have a pen here to draw it, but it was what it was this is the quarterback. The halfback is here in the backfield, okay, from your perspective. And what happens is that the halfback goes crossbuck over here. The tight end is here, or goes in motion, okay? You have double slot over here already. The tight end comes over here. The split end runs a fly. The double slot person runs a slant, and so you have an option of, and you can hand off, and then the quarterback's supposed to curl this way. The tight end comes across, and he's in the flat. All right. He actually took the play and then ran it the last game against Denver in the Coliseum 2 years ago, because last game this year was Jacksonville. And then the next year, which was last year, the Chargers stole the play. And I saw Twitter, and the same play that I drew up was being ran by the Chargers. And now I've seen that play replicated by 3 different teams on 3 different occasions. All right. So my point is that came from Gruden using it. He's not adverse to that if it works for him. And he's a guy who's got a phone book of plays. He's from the Walsh school, where you can never have too many plays in a game plan. And so he picks out a set that he needs. Like, for example, and this shows you the generational change. I remember that the 49ers under Walsh said they went into Super Bowl against the Cincinnati Bengals, Super Bowl 21, I believe it was. But the Super Bowl 16. They went into Super Bowl 16 with 89 passes and 31 runs. And that's for a playbook that has about 500 to 600 plays. So what they do is, of that phone book of plays, they take the ones that they need for that particular game plan and they install them. And there are a lot of plays. Now, the problem that we have today, this is something I was asking Mike McCarthy about at the NFL Combine, is players today, instead of getting a verbiage of plays, like, for example, Brown left, toss 38, halfback lead, that sort of thing. All right. Or let's try this. Red left, brown left, red left, shift. Brown left slot, red left shift, toss 38, halfback lead. All right. Now, what I just said right there is basically for the team to line up in red left, which means the tight end's on the left side, but slot, okay, and then shift to Brown. Now, how you shift to Brown is that the fullback goes from strong side, from the fullback goes from the offensive tackle, the side of the offensive tackle, which is on the right, which is actually the 3 position for Brown, for red, excuse me, because red, the fullback is here, but then for green, it's reversed. And then he goes from there to a position right behind the quarterback, which is the 3 position. So if I say toss 38, I'm saying throw it to the running back, which is the 3 back, who runs, if you're thinking the 8 is on the left side, then he runs to the left. That's what the Cowboys used to do. They had their number system reversed, all right? But if it's like anybody else and it says toss 38 with the numbers to the right, then he's going to the right. That stuff that I just told you is too complicated for a lot of players today because they're used to seeing a banana, or they're used to run play number 1.
Or they show them pictures, the baby face.
Right. Or, to add some more, hey, ML, how you doing? Add some more humor to it, run play 9.
Well, the audibles that Derek was calling.
Huh? I'm sorry?
The audibles that Derek was calling, a few of them were kind of funny or interesting, I should say. The 2 that stuck out to me was Bruce Springsteen. And then the other one was LaMonica. Now, I'm interested to find out what play. I didn't pay attention to the play, to be honest. When he's yelling out LaMonica, I would like to know the breakdown of that play. I don't know if we can find that out, maybe.
What they do, those calls are meant to be distractions, but they change them out every week.
Yeah.
Because you don't want somebody listening like I'm telling you to listen, and you figure out that, hey, every time he calls LaMonica, it means that they're going to throw a play action pass, to a flat, all right? You don't want that to happen. So every week they're switching these things up. But my point is that where things have changed is that the player of today, because of this stealing, this smartphone, all right, is less interested, okay? Hey, here's a great one. Is less cognitively is not trained to think in terms of study like that. That's the problem. They're too busy playing video games with these things, and it's ruined, big time ruined, the ability of a lot of football organizations to be effective. So what's happened is that we've had this slow evolution of systems, all right, and systems where, for example, you'll have the inverted veer, or reason why you have the return of the option, but it's in a spread formation is because it's simple. And a lot of players will have maybe 2 or 3 or 4 plays and 5, and that's it. Or that's why the the variations of the run and shoot are now in vogue. Why? Because the run and shoot was basically in of itself simple. It came out of a 4 wide receiver set, but each receiver had 6 different passing tree options, right? And they would use hand signals like, hey, I'm going to turn right. I raise my hand, right? Which means I'm turning right. Or if I get down to a stem like 5 yards and I do this, I turn, all right? It takes practice to make that work, but it's fewer plays. So in all this C, you have John doing the old Walsh thing. And you have Mike McCarthy with some of the same problem, bringing that along. And so what you have to do really is what I've started doing. I have my new system, which right now is at 50 plays, but it's based around a very simple concept that I see as a tree where you can build off of that tree. It's one formation. You can build off the tree, and it's adjustable by emotion, not shifting, because I want something that ultimately can be ran without a huddle, because the game is faster and you want to be able to do that. Which gets to my other thought with the problem of the Raiders, the no huddle. I want to know, while I'm thinking about the no huddle thing, what you think about Josh Jacobs and the Raiders running game and the mix, and not only that, getting all this done with so many injuries.
Well, with Josh Jacobs, he wasn't that effective to me in the run game, but there's some intangibles that he has, like that a la Marcus Allen going over, flying into the end zone. That is classic Raider style running backs. I mean, Marcus Allen, we had Bo Jackson just knocked him over. And but in today's game, this specific game, he wasn't that effective. And I gotta suspect, and I know we talked about this before, is that I think he's tired. I mean, John's wearing him out. But what I was impressed with is that when you give an opportunity for a running back that don't have that many snaps because of Josh Jacobs, like Devontae Booker, he exploded. I love seeing Devontae Booker out there. And I said this previous game, I told everybody, and I mentioned it in one of our live streams, is that I like the way Devontae Booker is playing, and I'm glad we picked him up. And look what happens today. This guy was solid.
Very solid. Hey, how about Carl Nassib?
Oh, he got hurt again, didn't he?
Yeah, but he was rushing the passer, man.
He was doing great. Yeah.
Carl Nassib is the man. I don't know why people have so much hate for him. I think Carl is like Nelson Aguilar. He's one of these people that is a league journeyman, but wherever he's gone, he's been effective. And that's why I think the Raiders, I think Mike Mayock did another Mike Mayock special by bringing Carl Nassib into the fold.
Now he did hurt his big toe, so hopefully he'll be able to play next week.
Yeah, let's keep monitored on that. And then we have to talk about, since this is sort of a potpourri, your Lakers, the champions. You're not wearing a Laker hat.
I know. I don't have one. You know why? I don't like the color purple, even though I'm a big Prince fan.
Well, how do you
get
that circle? I don't get that.
I need to get a black one. I need to get a black one with the L on it.
How do you square that circle?
I don't know. I've always been a Laker fan. I don't like the color yellow. And to me, I know it's purple and gold, but to me that looks yellow. And I don't like purple. I don't like that mix. And the irony of that, like I said, I'm a huge Prince fan. When you think of Prince, you think of purple, and I have no problem with that. But for some reason, when it comes with the Lakers, I've never wore Laker gear ever. But I'm a Laker fan. I grew up a Laker fan, and that's just the irony of my taste, I guess. But talking about them winning, I think there's something unique with the season, because I didn't see. Every time the Lakers are on the playoff or fighting for the finals, everybody and their mother has a flag, is waving. It's bonkers, right? This is their 17th NBA title. Though Golden State had a great run, LA always expects the Lakers to be in the finals. That's the mentality of the LA Laker fan. But I think a lot of it has to do with the COVID situation and the fact that we're playing in October. Because now we have the NLCS championship, the Dodgers in the championship series. The Raiders are playing, football's playing. There's a lot of people watching those other sports. I don't hear talk or chatter, about the Lakers, but I just saw a photo on the news of over 300 people showed up at Staples Centers just to walk around Staples Centers and cheer. Which, first of all, I think is dumb because of the COVID-19 thing. Because there is no social distancing whatsoever. And that's unfortunate because they're all young people. And you know how when I was young, I'd probably be the same way. I'd probably be out there because we think we're, Superman. We don't think that's going to harm us. So that's the only thing that bothers me is that you had literally more than probably 300 people. I mean, you should have saw that crowd that's out there at Staples Center right now. They're going bonkers. But in comparison to a normal season, that's a small crowd because you couldn't get miles close to Staples Center in previous years. That's how crazy it gets for the Lakers.
So what do we make of the clip? What do we make of this season? I thought this season
was the Clippers
successful. I mean, the Clippers and how I'm starting to jumble my thoughts here. I'll get this out of the way. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think the NBA is to be applauded for what they've done. They had no positive coronavirus reports, none. They wore Black Lives Matter and they turned it into a brand. They had a uniform approach. They had great games. And they were able to crown, I don't care what anyone says, a legitimate champion. What are your thoughts?
Well, I agree, especially when you consider the teams that are in the playoffs. And the one thing that it is extremely impressive that they're able to pull this off in a bubble, because that was how do I put it? That's the earmark that everybody should have tried to accomplish. I personally think the NFL failed miserably in how they handled the COVID situation, personally.
How would you like to have seen them handle it?
Well, first of all, I thought if you take the time, as I mentioned in my previous vlogs long time ago, when they knew there wasn't going to be a draft due to the COVID, but they wanted to have the season for various reasons, at that time, you should, in my opinion, the way I thought they should have been planning ahead of time with respects to enforcing no OTAs, or if they have OTAs, put a bubble situation like the NBA, because we saw a lot of lack of protocol behavior, and I think that sets a bad example for those fans that are looking at the players, because regardless of what we think, even as adults, when we see other people doing normal things, it must not be that bad. It must not be that bad. And that's mistake number one. Number two, I thought personally they should have started the season a few weeks later, get everybody on the same page, and have a mandate that every player wears a complete face shield. Because this is the thing, and I mentioned this before in the vlog, Oakley designed a special face mask so that the players could wear a covering over their mouths and would allow them to have breathable air coming in through the sides, but you're not spreading the virus forward. They created a mask. They showed it on Hard Knocks. But the problem with the NFL is that they gave the players the option not to wear it. How stupid is that? If you don't want, none of these COVID cases would have happened, I think, if you had, because how many players wear shields in front of their eyes? What's the difference? Put a shield in front of your mouth. Like, why could those players put shields in front of their eyes, but not a plastic shield that attaches to the bars of the helmet? Mm-hmm. And you could eliminate a lot of these problems, because what's going to end up having moving forward, unfortunately, is that you're going to continue having these outbursts of COVID infections. We already had 3 games keep getting moved further and further back. So we know completely that this would have happened maybe in a smaller scale if those Oakley masks would have been mandated by the NFL. Because what doesn't make sense also is that why do the coaches have to wear face masks when they're following the same protocol as the players and the players don't? Because it's a visual optic. But what would be more impressive of a visual optic if you had the whole NFL wearing face masks on their helmets? They're see-through face masks. that would have been a better optic than trying to force a coach to wear a face mask when everybody around it was not wearing face masks and they're crunching into each other and playing. It makes no sense.
No, you're right. It doesn't at all. Kyle Sprader says now the NBA season is over. How are they going to schedule for next season? What do you think?
I think they start in late December or January.
Like right now, basically?
Well, because if you remember, here in LA, the biggest games were always on Halloween. It was always the Lakers versus somebody else. That was when the season started.
Christmas.
And I think, yeah. So I think they move it to Christmas or early January or mid-January, start the season. That way there's a 2.5 month layover, especially for the Lakers. I mean, they're going to be tired if they start the season right away.
So we go back to the bubble then? Because we're not out of this.
I think we do. I think we're going to have to. But you're right. Are the players going to want to do that? Because the fact of the matter is, the reason why they were in the bubble and agreed to it is because they wanted to finish the season, but they left all their loved ones back home. So
yep. And that's
what
the
do
thing.
you do?
It's like, all these are one, and it's like they think there's going to be one and dones, but we don't have a virus vaccine yet.
Well, according to Eric Trump, you do, but you know what an idiot that guy is.
No comment. So, I mean, like, we don't have a virus vaccine yet. I mean, so it's like, I think this is further discussion. As far as how the NFL is not doing it right, my issue with the NFL will be summed up in a moment. Let's take a look, just to go back to the Raiders, at what John Gruden had to say at his presser after this great win against
really good football team, obviously, and playing shorthanded without Malik and without Mo inside, losing Nassib to a foot injury. We had a lot of guys step up and play hard and finish, and I'll be happy to answer any questions I can.
This is Vinny with the Review Journal. I know that confidence didn't waver after the last 2 weeks. Is this validation of what's possible if you guys can play some clean football and get some necessary?
We think we've been playing pretty good, honestly. We played well in the opener. We played well against the Saints. Thought we played pretty good at spurts in New England on a short week. And I thought we played pretty good against Buffalo outside of some critical errors. But we're getting better. You know, we're finding ways to move the ball, and we've got some stops when we needed them, but we still got a long way to go.
This is Condo Carpenter with a young team. Obviously, you take satisfaction in the fact that they've never quit. They just keep fighting. Is this part of the process of learning how to win when you're young, Coach?
Yeah, I think so. I think it also speaks volumes of kind of men that we're bringing in here. Mayock and his staff bringing in some guys that have a real edge to them, that really like to compete no matter what the score is. You know, if you look at the way we finished in New England, we scored at the end. It was meaningless to a lot of people. We did the same thing against Buffalo. We keep fighting. And that's a great ingredient, I think, on winning teams. And obviously we do have some skill. We've got some more speed on offense that showed up today. And defensively, we're still a work in progress. We're missing Arnett and some defensive linemen, and that's tough sledding against the offenses that we're playing.
John, you mentioned, no Mo, no Malik, losing Nassib. What did you see from the defensive linemen that did play in terms of pressure and stuff today?
Well, I mean, if you look at the number of scrambles that Mahomes had today, the effort that we had to try to get him, I know we didn't do a great job of getting him on the ground, but this is as hard as it gets. You don't have many substitutes available. All we had was 5 or 6 guys left, and Mahomes is a great scrambler, and he made us pay several times today, but it was enough in the end. I'm really proud of our guys finishing the game, and Chris Smith, Dayton Jones came up off the practice squad. It was their debut today, and thank God we had them.
John, is this a glimpse of what we're going to see from Henry Ruggs from now on?
Well, yeah, I mean, we didn't bring him in here to run, hitch routes. He can really run, and we got to be, I think, better at getting him the ball in other areas because he's a great route runner. Nelson Aguilar shows up.
I just want to say one thing real quick. You can tell when John gets a stupid question. It's just I just want to put that in. Okay, all right. Just back to the action.
We're getting a lot of contributions. It's taking pressure off of Waller, and we're able to use a lot of eligible receivers every week, and Derek Carr is doing a great job of playing quarterback.
Derek had that first interception, but and he's not had a good history at Arrowhead, but it didn't seem to faze him at all.
No, we took a shot on a short yardage play, and I think the coverage that they played, they did a great job, and I give Derek a lot of credit. He's been through a lot here as a Raider. This was certainly a big win for him, but hopefully we got a lot more big wins ahead of him. I just hope everybody in Las Vegas that is a Raider fan is excited about the young players that we had out there today, and we sure look forward to having them in our stands too.
You got Trent Brown back.
I got to say one thing about that.
Right,
it's like, all right, look.
How big of
This is the difference, folks, between being in Oakland and Las Vegas. Oakland, you don't have to make an appeal to the fans to like your team. You know the fans are there. You know they're going to be there with you. But in Las Vegas, you got a little bit of a competition to deal with. Oh man!
Well, I mean, and just to be fair too, it's a new city that's never had the NFL, and you know, it's a very commuter environment where you have a lot of people coming in and out from different states. So I think that's part of his reasoning for saying that. But you're right. I mean, when they're embedded in a city like Oakland, it's way different.
And not only that, I have to say, look, I love the organization. I love what they've tried to do. I don't like how they handle certain things. You all know that. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I cannot go back. I cannot reverse time. I don't have control of people, okay? And I don't know who does. If you know somebody who does, introduce me. We can only move forward in life. That's, we have the right. We only move forward in life. And so, look, when I hear John say that, what goes through my head is how many Oakland fans are left on the beach, right? Who are, to this day, they're so mad that they don't care how well the team does. They're just mad. And I think the Raiders need to do a new initiative to get them to come. It shouldn't be this, well, we're the Raiders, you have to love us. They need to pull back the Raider fan that felt like that their foot put on the beach. That's me. Okay.
And I did think initially they tried to do that on Monday Night Football with the pre-ceremonies, because me being born in LA, and when I was growing up, the Raiders were here. That's all I knew. So right. The one thing I totally agree with you. So I'm not trying to cause any rift here, but what I would say is that during the pre-ceremony, I think they try to do that because they were talking about the greatness of the Oakland Raiders, but a lot of the footage were when they were in LA, including showing Marcus Allen. Marcus Allen never played for Oakland. Bo Jackson never played for Oakland. Right. So when they mixed it, even that little clip of Monday Night Football, when they had Al Davis says, "Just win, baby," that was from the 1983 Super Bowl, and that was when they were in LA. They didn't mention LA at all. So I know what you're saying to a small degree, because I'm like, wait, come on. They were in LA for a little bit, and they were worshipped by the fans. Why not mention us? I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying, but I get it, because I was the same way. It's like, come on, what about us? And you're right. They should ingratiate the fans more. But you know what I think is that I think they know that they're angry, and I think they're afraid to reach out, to be honest.
I don't think they have to do as much work in LA is because people, look, it's closer from LA to Las Vegas than Oakland to Las Vegas.
Right.
You guys are used to making that trek. So here you have the LA Times coming to do a feature on Raider fans who've come to see the team, even though there's no possible way to sit in the stadium at all. And where were they from? LA. Oakland? No. There were people who had said, well, people from the Bay Area came, but who? Okay, I don't know anybody. I didn't see anybody. No one's calling me saying, "Hey, Z, I'm here." All right, who? I'm not saying that no one went. I'm sure some folks did. I'm sure there are a lot of Raider fans from Oakland and the Bay Area and every place else that went. But how many? I don't know. Okay. All I'm saying is that the Raiders need to do a full court press to get back the people that feel like they've been left on the beach, who right now, like certain people I'm not going to mention because they wouldn't appreciate it if I didn't, but they were longtime season ticket holders and they don't want to go to Raider games.
But that's what I'm saying. So what about what I said about maybe they're not doing that because they know there's anger there and they know that it's going to be.
It doesn't matter. I mean, if you want, look, a friend of mine used to say, "How's your relationship with someone?" You have to, if you want something, go in and fix the relationship. You can't just say, "Well, they're mad at me." That's wrong. You don't do that. If you want to stay married, you don't do that. If you love your wife, you don't do that. If you want to repair your relationship, you do that. If you don't care to repair your relationship, then you say,
saying you got to work at it. You got to make the first step, be the bigger person and reach out.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know if it's
I have a quick question before we move on. So what are your thoughts about what I said about the Oakley face masks?
Repeat that, please.
What are your thoughts about what I said about the Oakley face mask being available and only giving the players, I mean, the NFL only saying it's optional if you want to?
Well, and the problem is that they need to make it mandatory. They need to take, and here's gets to a problem that I didn't fully expound on. The problem with the NFL is that you might have, you do have rather, a set of stadiums that don't allow fans. However, you have some like Arrowhead Stadium and Cowboy Stadium that do allow fans. And I argue too many of them. And so you have an NFL team that has taken a number of precautions, I'm just saying in general, to like the Rams, not have fans at all, and take other steps and measures. And yet you're asking that organization to then go to another stadium that has fans, and the fact that that stadium has fans means automatically that they have a different way of dealing with the coronavirus. It should be uniform for every one of the 32 teams, because all it takes is one cross-team exposure on the field in the wrong time for the coronavirus to spread, and it spreads very easily. The NFL has done itself a disservice by allowing this incomplete, incoherent, inconsistent, non-uniform set of policies to deal with the coronavirus. It's asking for it.
And I brought that up in a previous vlog as well, because if you're allowing fans, like today, we saw a number of Raider fans in Kansas City. So essentially what you're doing is causing a bigger problem, because now those fans are flying across country.
Yep.
And what do you think? That's just going to happen? That's even worse. Flying across country, staying in your own bubble, so to speak, in your city, and just staying there. But yet, who knows how many? For example, if it's worse in California, and the numbers tell you that more people in California will have the virus than those in Kansas City, but you're allowing folks from California to fly to Kansas City, you're just upping up the possibility of transmitting the virus.
Yep, definitely.
And the irony, too, is that Mark says, I refuse to go to a game if the fans can't be there, but he's at every other stadium. Why not just allow, you know what I think is going to happen towards the end of the season? The Raiders are going to allow a certain amount of fans to buy tickets and still give the 2020 season tickets a full 2021 season ticket vouchers, but they're going to allow the general public to buy small pockets. That's what I predict going towards the end of the season. I think Mark Davis is going to kind of peel off that onion, so to speak, and start. I think this is what I think. And I have no reason. I mean, I have no information to tell me otherwise. But this is what I think, that eventually that may happen in this season, because everywhere we go, we're going to start seeing fans at the stadium. Then we're going to start wondering, well, wait a minute, why can't we do the same thing? And look at Mark Davis. He shows up to every other stadium, but he won't be in our stadium, and he won't let us be there. And again, what I said initially, maybe it's not all because of the virus. Maybe because they know that that stadium is not 100% complete. And they, and I think that's the other reason why they decided not to allow fans in the stadium.
Yeah. You don't want to get sued. Still, you never know, right? Because that's a great point. That stadium, we don't know how it's going to stand up to the simple harmonic motion of 65,000 people roaming and rummaging throughout it. It hasn't had an appropriate shakedown. Now, don't chime in and say, well, they flushed all the toilets at once, because that's not structural. That's not a structural stress test. Okay. A structural stress test should have been an open house where you have people going through it with the appropriate protective gear to see if, the structure works properly. We have people walking around it or running around it. That hasn't happened. So I would be very concerned.
And at the very minimum, they haven't figured out a way to properly get that video wall to work.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. That outside, it doesn't work. Although there are, and I was talking to Frank Sapobitz about this, who was Mr. Super Bowl for the NFL several years, is still a good friend of mine to this day. He was saying that, well, normally you leave there are some unfinished elements of a stadium, the placement such that you can afford to have people in the stadium, even as it is still under construction. And I think the scoreboard outside qualifies as one of those elements. But you have to be careful. I remember in another example, Cal Haas Pavilion, where the California Golden Bears basketball teams play, was the result of a gigantic fundraising effort, but it was incomplete. And so there were tiles that were not properly placed in, and there were whole parts of the floor that were incompletely built, yet they opened the facility, risking slip and falls, which can come with gigantic lawsuits. It was not a good look for my university.
What year was that?
That was going back to, I want to say, 1998, 99. It was quite a while ago.
So what was, I went to a game there when I went there for that summer program, or not summer program, when I was there in general. But what was the old basketball arena that they played
Harmon.
at?
It's called Harmon.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the one I was at too. Yeah. Yeah,
Harmon, and then they tore down. Well, they didn't really tear down Harmon. It was reconfigured to become Haas Pavilion. And, for those of you who are wondering, yes, it's the same Haas family that owned the Oakland Athletics. Hey, so let's go back and hear what Coach Gruden has to say. Then we'll talk about the Falcons and Dan Quinn in that light as well. Here is John Gruden and some press comments. Yeah.
What difference does he make?
Well, he's all pro. He's an all pro right tackle. And when you're a right-handed quarterback, a lot of people say you put your money man on your left side. We have Colt Miller, who's playing great football for us. But when you have a guy like Trent playing at a high level on the right side, it makes things a lot easier in the pocket. Not that anything is easy, but we need him. And we'll see how he feels after the game. I'm sure he's very sore, and we got a lot of injuries to look at here during the bye.
John, you had 2 big 4th-and-1 plays. Was there any thought in your mind of not doing what you ended up doing?
Not with number 15 standing over there. We just did not want to give Mahomes another crack at it. I marveled at a lot of the plays that Derek made, and I certainly marvel at what Mahomes is able to do. A lot of his offense is unscripted. It's completely creative, and it's all created by him. And thank God we don't have to see them for a few weeks.
John, you said that in the second half, defensively, you miss those guys, but you kept saying, and Pop kept saying, it's one play away. It being these guys in here, how much confidence do you think that gives the defense if it happened here against this quarterback and this team?
I hope we gain confidence. We've got to get some players back healthy. We got Tom Brady coming in here next week. We've seen Drew Brees. We've seen Cam Newton. We've seen one of the hottest quarterbacks in Allen. Now we see Mahomes. We've already seen Bridgewater. So we need to get healthy. We need to stay focused and be true to ourselves, we still can get better. We're going to have to get better if we're going to stay in the hunt.
John, back to Derek. You seem like you played a really measured game.
I'm going to leave it right there because
like
you can,
said,
folks, you can listen to the rest of it on the Raiders website. And I'm going to put up the other view that I think most people really want to see, and the stadium. Yeah, there it is, all lit up. See that, folks? All lit up. October 11th in Las Vegas, 8 o'clock at night. Excuse me, it's not 8 o'clock. It's it says 8 p.m. I guess they stopped it at 8. They froze it.
Yeah, it's 10 o'clock Pacific time right now.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Okay. We have some Thomas Beltran says, I want to hear about the news on the new NFL team. I bought PSL tickets. Brother, I'm done with the Raiders. I will tell you right now what's going on is you're talking about Ray Bobbitt's group, and I'll make another video about this later, but they're a long way from having any deals done. First of all, we're in the middle of a lawsuit, and they just had the release of the City of Oakland's argument that happened on Thursday. Okay, you're not going to get anything done in terms of even dreaming of bringing in an NFL expansion team or a relocation if you're Oakland and you've got an active lawsuit, okay, against the Raiders and the NFL. Now, I happen to think the lawsuit was necessary because there's some actions that need to be appropriately adjudicated in court. But if you can't have your cake and eat it too. And on top of that, Ray Bobbitt paid to have the attorneys involved in the lawsuit. He paid for the entry of Jim Quinn. He paid $40,000 out of his pocket. So here Ray wants to do that, but then he's also going to want to do this. And we gave a lot of heat to the city of Oakland for, not stepping up to the plate, not filing a lawsuit. The city has filed the lawsuit. So now he wants to do this, and he said this is his dream. So now it's finally revealed that, it's Ray's dream. And my point is, I'll just say this candidly, folks, all right? As one who consistently works with the NFL, built his organization around the league, formed what is now Oakland's only bid to host a Super Bowl in its history, you're leaving your champs on the beach because you think you want to have your own black star chamber. And that's how it comes off to me. It's not like all hands on deck. It's like, well, I only want to deal with certain people who have titles. Oh, so that really improves race relations, because the biggest problem we have as black folks in America, other than racism from people who don't look like us, is racism from people who do look like us, who only want to have their people involved. All right? There's a lot of that around. Some people call it crab barrel behavior, what have you. And I know Ray doesn't want to hear this, but this is how Ray has allowed this process to evolve. So, how are you going to get anything done if you got to rush it and you're supposed to have this stadium design now? Why? We're in the middle of a pandemic. You got a lawsuit active. Baby steps. There's no organization. There is so much work to do. It's not funny. Yet those of you who follow this, if you're local, you hear about this either you see online or my publication, or you see I think one of the K's are announcing it, right? And you have a right to wonder what's going on and ask why. And Ray deserves, I should say, Ray has set up something, so he needs to respect the audience, because the audience is hungry. But also, look, it's wrong to get people to expect something to happen now. And just be real with everybody. Not that he hasn't been, but there's a certain part of what he's doing that says, I want my name to be announced by the mainstream media. So what? Why? You know, people get their news by smartphone anyway. So it's not, and I'm saying this because, well, for the reasons I gave, all right? If this is going to be an African-American effort, it can't be just like certain black folks. It's got to be a true African-American effort. And I don't mean like a community thing, like Ray wants to do this community, reaches out to everybody. You cannot get everybody in the middle of a pandemic to pony up something like $2 billion. You're going to have to find some rich folks. Rich black folks, sure. But hey, if some of them happen to be Jewish, fine. If it's a majority black, great. Do the best you can. But make sure when you're assembling that group, say, okay, who else do I need? I need communications. I need this. I need, I need allies. I don't need people out there that feel like they are out. I've been through that. I remember when I worked on the Super Bowl for Oakland, there's a guy named Sanjeev Honda, rest in peace. Sanjeev was known for coming to city council in Oakland and pointing out every little thing you did that was wrong as a council member. And I said, if I ever did anything, I would have Sanjeev in the tent. There's an old saying, have somebody in the tent, throwing out rather than outside the tent throwing in. All right. And that's what I'm trying to get Ray to see. That, hey, look, you don't have people outside your tent throwing in. You get your act together where everybody's inside your tent throwing out. Chris Benedetti, I said the same thing to him. It's wrong for Chris to sit there at a press conference and act like he has never been involved in trying to retain sports in Oakland when he was on Ron Dellum's Sports and Entertainment Task Force as the chairperson. All right. So here you got the guy who was a chairperson pretending like he's an objective media guy. He ain't no objective media guy. That's a bunch of garbage. I like Chris, but the one aspect of how Chris works is there some, like, Chris kind of likes to play it Vietnam style, right? Hide the weeds and pop you. It only works well some other time. So we come from that to a very bad situation. I don't think it's a very bad situation, but it is a situation. The situation is that the Atlanta Falcons are now officially, if you go to the Atlanta Falcons website, in fact, let's go to the Atlanta Falcons website because I believe the news is on the website, the official website of Atlanta Falcons. That'll be atlantafalcons.com. All right. And sure enough, here it is right here. And you're about to see it, folks, right now. As I share the screen here on beautiful StreamYard. Bazinga, right there. And I'll scroll down a little bit. It's on the left and it reads as follows. Atlanta Falcons GM Thomas Dimitrov, Coach Dan Quinn relieved of their duties. And as one who had the pleasure of meeting Coach Dan Quinn when he first got the job, okay? And I was at the NFL annual meeting. And I went to his table. It was just us for a long time. I got my breakfast and ate it. And with him, I gave him a play and some ideas that I had and all that. And really hit it off with him. Very responsive guy. And here he is. This is the first time I met Dan Quinn at the NFL annual meeting. This is 2014.
So that's one of the things I do enjoy most about coaching. So, what are Brooks' strengths and how can I help feature that?
Can I ask you one more question about, you watch Pete and Snyder, the relationship between coaches and general managers. You've got to develop on that. You come from one where they had a really good relationship, some that don't. How do you think a head coach, especially a first-year head coach, goes about building trust with his general manager?
I think it's not just, like automatically assumed over, one day, well, I'll just, automatically trust this guy. So for me, I knew Thomas was a guy that I connected with right off the bat. Like when you meet somebody, like, that's my kind of guy. So we met and I heard through mutual friends, okay, you guys would probably, connect in a pretty strong way. And then from then, we just tried to spend as much time together as we could.
and looking at players, watching. So for me, over the last 5 weeks, he's the person that I've spent the most time with, and that was definitely by design. So how many players we could watch together, you know, and if we had a disagreement, let's talk through it. And we did that with he and I together in terms of the scheme that we were going to run, as well as we did that with the whole scouting staff.
I'm going to stop it right there because the guy that he's talking about, Joseph, actually is the guy that he got fired along with, Thomas Dimitrov. So after 43 wins and 40 losses, Quinn is gone. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's, you know, as opposed to, you know, in the last 5 years, what you saw is a trend to cut bait as soon as possible. Forget about what you did the previous year or, you know, working towards a certain goal. The exception to that rule is John Gruden, who got a 10-year contract. But every coach, every game could possibly be their last game. Now, personally, I don't know too much about Dan Quinn. I don't know, and you probably know a lot better than I have, whether or not he should have continued being the coach for the Falcons. But if you just follow the trends, is that a lot of these owners or general managers are cutting bait as soon as possible. And I don't know if that's a good thing because you're not allowing a team to adapt to that coach or the coach to that team.
I think to answer your question, his time was last year, and the year before that was the year that really the Falcons, a lot of people expected them to go to the playoffs and the Super Bowl, and they never quite recovered from that 28-3. You know what I'm talking about. All I have to do is say 28-3. And that was the score the Falcons had. That was the score the Patriots had in Super Bowl 52 before the Pats roared back to win. And it looks like I got something on back there, by the way.
Me?
Yeah, you're looking back like that. I was like,
oh no, they're showing the championship rally at Staples Center. But the lights are flashing, so it gets my attention.
Yeah, I thought maybe it was a Godzilla or something. But anyway, look, Dan Quinn, I like as a person, and I've had not just that time in 2015, a bunch of opportunities to interview him. That was at the NFL annual meeting. There was I've seen him at 2 NFL annual meetings, 2 or 3 actually, and he's always been like, for example, here. This was a year ago. This was last year, and I don't know why that's not coming up there. Excuse me. This was last year when I talked with him. Yeah, here it is. And
guys, living on junk food? Stop. Eat real food that tastes great and lose weight with Nutrisystem for Men.
You just select, heat, and eat, and you're going to lose the weight.
Lose up to 18 pounds and 8 inches overall in your first month. Money back guaranteed. Check us out today.
Yeah, I get money for it.
We weren't quite sure what it was. I think now we're pretty certain what that is. You know, it's feet down and football, you know, movement.
Fast forward.
Like we actually got to go back. Run game and Thomas and the guy. You're talking about a new really important tackle.
Great to see you. First,
likewise.
Coach Gruden was saying that it's impossible to take human error out of the matter of the pass interference calls, and
yeah.
So I want to know what your thoughts are about that. He says you're not going to get rid of human error, so he didn't know what all the fuss was about.
Yeah, I think. Obviously, there's lots of discussion, you know, like when you're talking about a new concept, you put everything on the table. What could be challenged? You want to go frame by frame and look at it, what's allowed from your crew versus this crew. And so you're always looking for that standard of what it could be. But as fast as some of the ones happen, when it could go either way, you're not really sure. And those are the ones that can be frustrating for some coaches and players where 1 week the same play happened and then 2 weeks later it was officiated differently. That inconsistency can frustrate guys. So we're always looking for a good standard. of a what is it? What does it look like? But much like an umpire in baseball or a referee in basketball, when the things are happening really fast, you've got to make quick judgment calls. And at the end, we know these guys are really busting it to get it right. And so they always don't go our way. And I think that's kind of part of the game.
You have to accept that as
yeah, you do. Because it's not so exact where every single thing, is called. But when there are ways to fix a problem, if there is one, or a way to do it better, I think it's always worth our consideration to look at that.
I got to ask you about Dirk Cutter because I think he's one of the best pass pattern designers in the game today. What does he bring to the Falcons from your
Well, I think number one is the amount of explosive plays.
Yes.
And, so going against and competing against their team through the years has been really challenging, both at Tampa, when he was at Atlanta, and even all the way back to Jacksonville. So I've coached against Dirk for a long time, so it's nice to join forces with him. But you know what I mean? That's okay.
I saw that shut off.
That's okay.
That's my bad.
All good. That's the worst that happens to us today. We're okay. So his ability to have design and the explosive plays that take place, that's a real factor. We're gonna have balance in our offense, run game, pass game. That's when we're at our best, and he'll certainly work hard to ensure that.
And I don't want to get one more question for Big Vic Beasley. There's a lot of talk on local radio about, well, he's doing his own thing and he's freelancing thing. Well, that's an insult to the coaches.
Yeah, that's certainly not the case. Yeah.
Can you clear that up?
Yeah.
Where is Vic Beasley in your mind as a player?
I think
I like to put that to rest.
He's one of the guys this year has a lot to prove, and we've had some production and 1 year of really good production. So we're going to work like crazy to get the things that he does best out in the forefront to help our team play like we're capable of.
Anybody else?
Yeah, so I think I listened to that, and I think that what I come away with is it wasn't for lack of trying, okay, but it's a results-oriented business, and I think the problem is that it's too much of square peg, round hole. And what I mean by that is he tries to fit a situation that might call for a different approach into what he is used to. And in this instance specifically, I think he wanted an explosive offense. He got it. But what he didn't get was a power running game so that when they got these big leads, they can hold on to the ball. And that has been their problem throughout his tenure. They would get these big leads, but they didn't have the power running game to sustain them by picking up chunks of yards to get first downs to muscle down the clock. You know what I mean? And it's caught up to him. It caught up to him. That's what happened. So, good man, without question.
Who's their interim coach? One of the other coaches, obviously.
You'll find that out tomorrow, as I understand it. Atlanta Falcons president Rich McKay right now is doing the day-to-day work. Okay, and so we'll find that out. There's an interesting conversation going on here. Alberto says Seahawks will go 14-2. I guess they won tonight. And then it says Wilson MVP. And see, here's the thing. And this is what the Falcons are missing is a mobile quarterback. I don't say go out and get him injured like Dak. What happened with Dak? All right.
That was for the year, I think.
And there's some people who say, well, Zinni, you're wrong. He ran a quarterback draw and is effective. My point is, given the athleticism out there, have him slide if you're going to have him run a quarterback draw. I am not, as much as I love Lamar Jackson running and everything else, I don't want to see any quarterback be in a situation like Dak was, or if you remember, RG3, who basically, almost ran himself out of the league, and Mark Shanahan was only too happy to let him do it, saying, well, I got Kirk Cousins back here. I can let you, run to death, and I can satisfy everybody who thinks that I don't want a black quarterback, when he kind of act like he really didn't. Okay. And I'm just being honest. That's how he came off. And so then he got Kirk Cousins. There is a way to design a system for a quarterback that can run. The Seahawks have mastered it. They don't ask Russell Wilson to run by design as a standard course. He runs when the passing options break down. He runs when the opportunity presents itself. And I'm really a really big believer in that. Okay. A really big believer in that. Okay. John Marks says Raiders are 2-3 going into the bye week next week. Yep. And then they got the Bucks, who I would be very surprised if the Buccaneers got past the Green Bay Packers. Hey, it's 1:10. You want to close this out? What are your thoughts about the Lakers and the future of sports in LA?
Well, you know, we kind of been spoiled with the Dodgers going twice to the World Series, 8 consecutive titles. But for someone like me who's lived through that, I'm not satisfied until they win a World Series. You know, because that's the ultimate goal. And the same thing with the Lakers is that as much, I mean, the Laker fans are extremely loyal, just like a Raider fan is. But there's always a sense of, we didn't go to the finals. And after how many years did Golden State win championships back to back? 3-4 years?
Yeah, 3 years. They went, but it was a total of 5 years.
Yeah.
They lost to Toronto. When they won, they did their threes, right? So
that was our drought.
Yeah.
You know, and hopefully they can sustain this for moving forward. Now we know LeBron is ending his career in a couple of years, I suspect. So it's up to Anthony Davis to take on that Laker mantle and move it forward to the next level. And let's hope that that continues. I mean, we saw how important Kobe and Shaq were to the Lakers, and Kobe took that torch to a whole different level. God bless and rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Yeah.
And yeah, so I think sports analogy has always been important. I know that we're always called fair weather fans, but those are people that don't understand the heart of LA. Because whenever you see the media portray LA, or even sports media, it's always that glamorous Hollywood. We don't know those people. You know, that's not an everyday life for 90% of Los Angeles. But that's what they tend to show and glorify, and those are fair weather fans, not the blue collar fans throughout Los Angeles. Those are the true fans.
Well, what about Jack?
Well, you know, Jack's Jack. I mean, come on, you got to give him a pass. Now, the attraction of having all the celebrities because you were in LA. You know, and you never, you know, for the exception of Jack and a few, they all come out just for the playoffs, right? Because you don't see that everyday fan there all the time. Now, you saw that back in the day with that blonde lady. I forgot her name. She was a old school actress. She was there at every game. Jack was there at every game. So there was a few. And let me tell you this, because now I know we briefly talked about or mentioned the Clippers. You got to realize, as great as the Clippers have in terms of players, they're the San Diego team to LA. Because the Clippers will always be the second-rate team no matter who they have. Because as much as that's just a fact. Because there's multiple generations. There are families that are raising their kids to be not Clipper fans, but Laker fans. And that's what I say also. I ran into, you know, I've always said this, and you might dispute me in this, but there's a ton of Raider fans here in LA. I met a few people, strangers, but because we have that common goal, I've seen that guy wearing the Raider shirt. He's about 38. He told me, I'm raising my kids just to be Raider fans, not Rams or Chargers. It's Raiders. That's a unique. Raider fans are unique. And no matter where they are or where they played, you're going to have people always propagating that fandom about the Raiders. So the love for sports is always going to be in there in LA. I think moving forward, the one staple we're going to have, at least in the foreseeable future, are the Lakers and the Dodgers. The Dodgers are a young team. They're a great coach team by Dave Roberts. You know, he played for San Francisco for a little bit, and he was also a former Dodger. But you have kids that are just spectacular, and the depth the Dodgers have is remarkable. So they're always going to be in the mix. So I think, at least for LA, we're in good standing.
Hey man, I'll let that be the last word. Stick around in the background, man.
All right.
Hey folks, we'll be back tomorrow. Subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube if you have not done so before. And bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com. Hey, maybe we should go to maybe a kind of a TMZ format as an experiment. Anyway, just to put our toe in LA. Because you're in LA. I got some ideas. We'll be back, folks. All right.